Hi, my name is John Bautista. I'm a partner at Orrick in our Emerging Companies group. And I'm very pleased to have with me this afternoon Jim Fowler, who's a serial entrepreneur, formed many companies, recently formed Jigsaw, which he took from start to acquisition, sold to Salesforce. It was a fantastic acquisition and a great example of the kind of talent and entrepreneurship that Jim brings to the table. Jim, as I mentioned, has formed many companies over his career and is now off to his new startup, which is in stealth mode. Today we thought we'd ask Jim a couple of questions about lessons that he's learned along the way and advice that he can give entrepreneurs about the companies that they are founding. Jim, thanks a lot for being here today.
My pleasure, John.
Wanted to talk to you about the companies that you've formed. What have been some of the highlights and the lowlights in your entrepreneurial experience?
Well, it's funny that sometimes some of the highlights are for the companies that didn't work, and some of the lowlights are for the companies that did, which I think is interesting. Obviously, for me, though, the highlight would, of course, be Jigsaw. We got bought by Salesforce in May of 10 for what ended up being $175 million. So that's a thrilling experience. It truly is.
And that was Salesforce's largest acquisition at that time, and I think probably the second largest acquisition they've done to date.
Yeah, I think they've actually now done a couple bigger than Jigsaw. Heroku and Radiant 6 were both bigger since then, but at the time, definitely, it was they had done $30 million was the biggest they had done up to that point, so that was a big departure for everyone. It was a great experience. Salesforce is a great company. What
were some of the challenges along the way in building Jigsaw that you encountered?
So it's funny. You hit a point, or for the first year of your life, I think you kind of just operate on this sort of adrenaline, and but it is scary. I mean, it's what I call the house of cards, and you know, I have had a co-founder at Jigsaw, and he used to walk into my office, you know, every Friday for the first year of our life, and look at me and go, "Fowler, who are we kidding? This is a house of cards." And I'd talk him down off the ledge, and then he'd leave my office, and I'd sit there and go, "Oh, who am I kidding? This is a house of cards." But you've at a point, and it's not like this switch gets flipped. You hit a point where you go, "Wow, we've got something," and you know you do. And in a way, that's even scarier, because when you actually have something that you don't want to lose, it's even a little more terrifying in some ways, because then you don't want to let people down, because you know you've got something.
How did you make sure you had the right team in place when you built Jigsaw?
Boy, John, this is one of the hardest things. I mean, you know, you talk about what do you need an entrepreneur, a CEO running a small company to do, and you know, they need to set the vision and the strategy and the culture for the company. Bucket one. They need to raise money, make sure that the company has enough money, is two, and then number three is hire a great team. And there's an enormous amount of pressure. And the problem, what I can guarantee almost every person that starts a company is they're going to make mistakes. It's just impossible. And so a piece of advice would be, when you know you've made a mistake, just take care of it right now. And there's all these reasons why you shouldn't, but I would say that if I had to look back and go, what do I wish I could have done better? And I bet you anything, with every company I do from this point forward, I will say the same thing, is I wish I would have fixed those mistakes a little bit faster.
You mentioned culture, and we hear a lot about culture. What was the culture of Jigsaw? You know, trying to be as specific as possible. What kind of culture did you foster, and how important is culture in building a business?
I think culture is critical. I really do. I think it's what separates, you know, good companies from great companies. And I mean, I think that there can be companies that do really, really well financially, but they don't have a great culture. I wanted to build a company where people said, hey, you know, everyone was really transparent and direct and honest, but we have a lot of fun. We work hard, but we have a good balance of life. That was really key for us. I mean, I have a wife and a son, and I think, you know, my first duty was to be a good husband and a good father. And if you fail on that, who cares if you create a company that's great? And I think our people knew that, but we also had a saying that, you know, you're going to get pushed out of your comfort zone at Jigsaw. I mean, if you want a nice, soft place to get a salary, this is not it. But I think you can have both of those. And, but at the end of the day, it's the relationship with the people that you make. One of our favorite things that I think is still going on, even though I'm gone, is that our team still plays poker every Friday afternoon. And it was just one of those things where we had a company meeting every week at the beginning. And then after we were done with that company meeting, we get out and play poker. And to this day, that still happens. And it was some of my fondest memories of Jigsaw.
Jigsaw raised venture capital. So what were some of the questions that you were trying to answer in terms of when you raised venture capital and whether you brought in VCs into the Jigsaw equation?
Well, I was a non-technical founder. So there was no question that I had to raise money. Unlike technical founders who can go and sometimes build their own products or take a small team and code for 24 hours straight in their underwear, that was not me. I had to go out and find a tech team, and so raising money was critical for me. We raised $18 million over 3 rounds. The advice I would give to your listeners is, when you're going to raise money, raise as much money as you can. You're going to take the same dilution either way. The VCs are much more interested in the amount, the percentage of your company that they get than they are the actual amount that they invest. So you might as well take the cash. We raised more money than we needed, but that's because we were in a very favorable fundraising environment and we were positioned well for it. And I would just say that it's painful. Make your decisions about which way you're going to go, and once you do it, just do it. Don't look back.
What were some of the lowlights, the worst times that you had to overcome in Jigsaw or other companies that you've built?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be Jigsaw. We were lucky with Jigsaw. There wasn't a lot of it was kind of a nice, steady growth for us. I mean, there was couple of missed quarters, and certainly some bad times in every company. I mean, basically, as an entrepreneur, you have to be really comfortable with waking up in the morning and thinking you're going to be supreme exalted ruler of the universe, and then by that afternoon, your house is crumbling, your company's crumbling to the ground, and that could happen a couple times a day. But I would say the worst was when I was a young guy. I was owner operator of a ski business in Idaho, and we were always under the gun for cash. And that is, I really learned that lesson of, you can see cash problems coming a mile away, but you just don't want to accept it. Well, if we have a good month here and we do this, and I just think that you can see it coming. We choose to blow it off, and then it just all of a sudden it's a monster. And once you're hammered on cash, you have no option. And there was a few times when I was running Lookout Pass ski area with my partners that we had to delay payroll, and there is no feeling on the planet worse than when people, they need to make their mortgage payments or they have kids, and you are where their money comes from, and you can't do that. And I would just never again would I get in that position.
That's a good lesson, having more cash than you need and to enable you to seize opportunities as well as just surviving, but also seizing opportunities to help grow your business, I think is an important lesson for entrepreneurs. Last, I'd like to ask about what your view is of the B2B marketplace and what areas you think are areas for hot growth in B2B right now.
So, of course, consumer always gets all the
right.
all the glory, and of course, the way I look at it was really funny because after I got done with Jigsaw, I knew I wanted to start another company, and I thought, I think I want to go do a consumer. Consumers are challenging. I've never done it, and I went to a couple of my friends. Raj Kapoor from Mayfield was one. He goes, Fowler, why would you want to do consumer? I mean, A, it's not your background. B, it's the little tweaks and twists that you have to do to make consumer hit. Like Groupon. It's a great example. I mean, how many countless models of couponing were there before Groupon came and somehow just tuned that model to where they could blast off? What I love about B2B is that it's more of an execution play. It doesn't take quite that lightning in a bottle. You can start out with something that's not that great and continue to grow it through persistence and just dogged execution. And I think in a lot of ways, that's what we did with Jigsaw. I mean, data. I mean, the funny thing about B2B is you'll come along with an idea that has been around forever, and you can twist that model. Like with Jigsaw, it was a crowdsourced model, and then we turned that crowdsourced model into data as a service. That's, of course, why we got bought for a lot of money. But I think there's every part of B2B still continues to have a lot of growth. I mean, hell, look at Josh James. He just came, off of his sale to Adobe, and cranked out Domo. I I mean, he's back into BI. I mean, BI has been done a million
right.
times, and I have a feeling if I know anything about Josh James, he's going to completely innovate on that.
That's terrific. Jim Fowler says B2B is still alive and well, and there's lots of opportunities in this marketplace. Thanks for spending some time with us. It's a real pleasure to speak with you today.
My pleasure, John. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.